Right, so if we take a look at what we have from last time, we essentially created a bunch of these trash bags. We talked a little bit about creating the creation of creating a game about a waste disposal manager who runs around and um, grabs these trash bags and put them in there, and we're going to model out the environment, all this good stuff. And then we hooked up a little bit of canvas where we could press W and S or the other keys and print it to the screen for testing. So I'm going to go ahead and hit escape and to exit out of this, and then let's go up to game and or I'm sorry, tools rather, and let's open up our scripting canvas. Now notice what we have last time. So this is our input handler. Now this actually is getting phased out. I'm going to put a link to the description of a more updated video tutorial where they talk about that. I am going to be incorporating some of those, the newer input system, into when I have the actual character that we model and rig walking around. But for now, this is good because just for learning the scripting stuff. So let's go ahead and move our entity. So I'm going to grab this hold here, and I'm going to drag it out. I'm going to type in multiply, and we want this first multiply option here. And what that's going to do is it's going to multiply the value of the pressed by, it's going to multiply that value by a number. So for example, we have the number here 1. If we're going to slow this down, I can make the second value that it's multiplying 0.1. And then the output here is we want to move the object itself by a vector 3. So you might be wondering, well, what is a vector 3? Well, a vector 3, you can think about it as a variable that stores 3 values, right? And in coding, we think of it as a data type. So I'd say vector 3, then give it a name. A name is the name of the object, or the name of the variable that's storing a vector 3. And whenever I use the word variable, it just essentially means a temporary storage place, or a place to store data. So notice as I have this sphere selected, this could be considered a vector 3. There's translate, there's rotate or scale. So if I'm moving something within a vector 3, the first part of the vector 3 is the x, the second is the y, and the third value in the vector 3 is the z. So you're going to see this in a second. So back in our essentially our script canvas here, you'll see when I go to drag out the output here, let me move this up a little bit. My multi-monitor is kind of flipping out a little bit. There we go. If I drag this out and I just type in create from vector 3, and I select this, you're going to see that it has 3 values. It has an x, y, and z value. Now actually, I don't want this create from vector 3. I do want to still use a vector 3, but I want a create from values. And what that does is that breaks our vector 3 into different pins. Let's make sure we select the vector 3 one though. So create from values. You can see there's a color, vector 2, or vector 3. So this is the one we want. Now I'm going to go ahead and hold Alt and click on that X to break it, because if you look over here, remember here's our move Y value, which is our W and S keys. And so I only want the result to be able to affect the Y axis. So this is the second axis of the sphere object as I translate it. So, well, you might go, well, that's cool and everything, but how does it actually move the entity? Well, we do that with an actual move entity node. So I'm going to go ahead and drag this out. I'm going to type move and then entity here. And you can see AI navigation, audio trigger, here's entity, transform, move entity, because what we have here is an entity, right? When we right-clicked here to create our player, we selected an entity. And the entity that we're going to move is this one right here. Now we want to leave it at self for now, because what we're moving is whatever this script is attached to. And we know, let me save this, that this script is attached to our script canvas here, which is our player. All right, so let's go ahead and hit Control G to run our game. Now when I press W and S, you can see it registers the pressure on the inside, and I can also move it with W and S, which is really cool. All right, let's do the same thing for the x-axis. So I'm going to go to Tool. I'm going to go over here to Script Canvas, and let's make sure that's open. And actually, we can probably maximize this a little bit so that you can see it better. Now, to save us a little bit of time, I'm just going to highlight all of this, and I'm going to move down here. I'm going to hit Control C, and then where my cursor is, I'm going to press Control V, and I'm going to move all of these down here. Now, remember, we're just moving the x-axis here. And then what we're going to do is I'm going to hold Alt and left click on this pin to break that. And I want it to move my x-axis here. And the same thing. So here's my move entity. Now when I press play or Control G, and I push my D, WS, if I push in S and D together, it's kind of, or my, yeah, like S and D, you can see it moves at an angle, the alternate angle, things like that. So we've got some movement going on, which is pretty cool.